All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started with this. I'm not going to wait around for people to show up. I mean, considering that I haven't been regular in regard to my scheduling, and I don't see that happening in the near future either. But I have been consistent for 15 years. All right, so um, yeah, so as you can see within the title, I'm going to kind of just meander around here until I start seeing people show up. But as it's can be, the title, WBAN. Okay, suggestion. Where's the suggestion? Open studio. For what? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'm just seeing this, how it's looking at how things are being presented to me live in regard to the system, connecting here to YouTube. Anyhow. All right. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. So, wide body area network and Christina wireless body area network. Yes. Um, well, in this case, it can be referred to as wideband, but we all know what's going on with that. So everybody's pretty much well, few people are. What my intention is here is to watch with you a video that I downloaded of Sabrina Wallace back in 2023. And this is not to focus on this so much. I just want to provide the information. I transcribed an earlier communication that she brought, and I made that available on Patreon to the public. And so I'm going to post a link here. In fact, I'll just give me a second here. I'll do it right now. And anybody who wishes, they can go to that resource, which is a summary of the terminology going to be used. So for those who would like to do further research, or perhaps just have it handy so they understand, one would understand what is being said, there's that. So here we go. And for some reason, it's not allowing me to do that. Why wouldn't it allow me to do that? I don't know. So I got to figure out why this is not happening. You know, these live things, there's always some nonsense happening. All right, so I'm going to try to get rid of some of it and see. There we go. Yay. All right. There's the link. And all right. So that's the link for the summary of the terminology that will be, or should I say, will be being used. All right. I have delay going on here. So there's latency, and so it sounds like I'm yelling at myself from the other side of the room, repeating what I just said. So, all right, I have to get close to the microphone because it can't be too loud, and I need to be heard. All right, so is anybody else there? Please check in the chat before I actually start the video. I'll be up. I'll be up. Excuse me. I'll be off in the left-hand corner, watching this and pausing the video from moment to moment, depending on whether or not anybody responds. It's about 28 minutes long, so from the time we begin, it'll be a half an hour or less. I can stop in the middle of it and switch gears, which I normally end up doing anyhow. I'm not here really to present this as, this is a huge problem. Well, yeah, this has been going on for a while, and it's nothing new, really. And solutions are more interesting to me anyhow. And I'll end up talking about that more than anything else. At least that's my intention anyhow. All right, so there's concurrently 1 viewer and 5 views. Kimberly, thank you for showing up. Nope, just meandering around here waiting for people to show up, Kimberly, so thank you. I just like for others if they are, there's, let me see, 3, okay, so we got 3 concurrent viewers. If you're viewing this, please just check in the chat so I know that you're here. And you can see within the chat that I have a link, and the link is for the terminology. It's a summary of the terminology that is being used or will be heard when listening to the video. Okay. So if you want to go over there, it's open to the public. I made that available to the public a couple months ago. I transcribed it. Yes, I transcribed it by hand like I do everything. So I don't really use all the fancy smanchy stuff. I don't really care for that. That's just my thing. So I put in a lot of extra work when I do stuff. Solar stuff, I'm not quite sure. Kimberly, could you tell me a little bit more about what you're talking about? Well, thank you, Christina. I appreciate. Yeah, I didn't recognize you at first, so I appreciate you being here. Okay, well, if you want to just listen and then come back later for the visual, that might be, you know, helps. It may help the workout to move along quicker. But thank you. Appreciate the check-in. X-rays and energy. Are you talking about what is the sun? Actually, I want to do a follow-up on all that. It's a Stargate. It's a frequency modulator. Oh, well, you look at the stars, that's exactly what they are. You see a repetition over and over and over and over again of the same thing. The energy centers within the subtle bodies are gates. And those gates are frequency modulators, and it's determined on frequency, whether or not you pass through it. The codes that is referred to, like within Keylontic science, you have to hold the codes to be able to pass through the gates. Well, we're talking about frequency, so that's what that is, because everything is a modulation of frequency. Vibration becomes frequency, which is oscillation, which is pre-light, which is light, which is form. And, well, I would like to know more about your experience to what you're referring to. I'm still not quite sure, so I appreciate that, Kimberly. If you want to email me or something and give me a little bit more information, if you feel up to it, I'd be interested so that I would know more of what to do with certain things. A lot of things I haven't been doing is because I really haven't been getting really much input about, you know, things that are beneficial to others and, how it's affected them. From time to time I do, but it's not a regular thing, that's for sure. Okay, so again, I'm going to go ahead and post, because I'll just periodically post the link for those who may want to go check that out and pick up the PDF for it. This is wireless tissue terminology. It's just a summary of the terms being used if one is not acquainted with it. Now, somebody reminded me that some of this stuff can be considered as being fearful. And my 2 cents, which I'll throw in, which I always do, is solution related and knowing actually who and what you really are. Perhaps maybe I should talk a little bit about that first before we get started. And it's important to understand that you're not the body. I mean, you are experiencing yourself within this interface. That's what I call the body for this, or any aspect of manifest reality. I refer to it as an interface. It better defines who and what you are. This is not what you are, it's the way that you're experiencing self differently. So there may be many things that can happen within manifest reality. It's like the Wild West in a lot of cases, especially within these outer worlds. But knowing that this is not what you are, and be it that it is a consciousness construct, you hold within you the command code because you're a God sentient being. I just was reminded of this within dream state. There was a dream state situation where I was teaching myself. Very interesting. And something grabbed me and bound me, and I couldn't move my arms. And then my inner self, I don't refer to higher self, I refer to inner self, okay? Core aspect, because it's all inward. It's not something that you're going outside of, I know it's semantics for some people, but they have a tendency to seek things outside of themselves, my higher self, and I heard my voice and all this stuff. Everything that I am aware of, it always occurs within. And be it that it is a consciousness construct, that's where it always begins and ends. So within me, while I'm thinking I'm bound and something has me, and within me, I say to myself, look, there is nothing. And as soon as I was focused on that, as soon as it was nothing, that feeling, there was nothing. Nothing can harm you as a soul unless you give permission to it. You're the one that can allow it or not. If you're moving from this reality field, say the body expires and you know who you are, I'm not talking about identity, I'm talking about knowing who you are as a being, then your goal and objective for going where you're going to go or wherever you intend can be or try to be blocked. But it's up to you whether or not you're blocked. You can just simply, or maybe not so simply, but it really boils down to being aware of oneself to simply say, move out of my way. And there will be all kinds of things that can happen to convince you to stay and all this other stuff. But if you don't want to, and you know who and what you are, really, you're a God sentient being. You're a subdivision of God's self, source self. They have to move out of the way. And whatever your command is, it has to be obeyed. We're not talking about usurping your authority over something. It's just taking your authority of who and what you are, that nothing can usurp its control over you. We allow only that which we allow. Okay? That's very important. So when we go into this and listen to Sabrina Wallace talk about this stuff, okay? Understand we are not flesh and blood. I really appreciate her work. However, there is always more, and what is more is where I come in. This is something that I learned through my own endeavor and experiences, not something that I was taught. And when I say that you transcend the very creation, it's not because it sounds clever or it's poetic. It's because it's true. These are worlds that we co-create in order to experience self differently within, but we transcend all creations. We are the facilitator of them. You are God's source. I know it sounds all new agey and everything, but it's true nonetheless. All right, so remember, fear is part of this construct, and it's an artificial emotion. Like the analogy that I gave you, I'm bound. Something's bound me. Look again. No, you're not. You follow? Yeah, Sabrina's very good. I really like her. But she's really obsessed about a couple things, which I'm not. She also is obsessed with the God of the Bible, which isn't, it's all right. But she's pointing out, my emphasis here, hopefully this doesn't get lost because it's the whole point of me doing this. It really is. Because I thought whether or not to do this. Daphne, just to mention Daphne, she had mentioned that, there's some things I should consider bringing this information here and providing it, should I say, within this live stream. And so I appreciate that. And it was part of the reasons why things were reaffirmed with me in regard to why I'm doing this. This is just about awareness, because this has been going on for a very long time and most people are just not aware of it. Just because now it becomes news or it becomes available, it doesn't really mean much if one just focuses on those things as this is our duty to contend or look to block it. Your command within you is very strong if you understand who and what you are, and you're not the body. That's so important to understand, because when we go into this looking at what Sabrina communicates, we're talking about the body. Okay? And the whole emphasis is on that. Talking about the manifest body. However, like I said, not because I said it, it's because it's true. If you know who and what you are truly, that transcends identity, then that's from which you're going to be working through any of these things. You become less of a participant in this world in many cases, because you just find yourself, well, I'm just a stranger in a strange land. And you accept it for what it is. You see things for what it is. It's just a temporary time from which you are, here within this incarnation. And then you do accordingly to what is authentic for you. It's not a mission, it's just being you. And in the process, you influence things, or can. And you grow in the process, perhaps you could say. Because in truth, when you leave this, there's really not much connection to any of this anymore. All this stuff goes away. There's no interest. It's like going on vacation, and it's like, okay, all right, not much of a vacation. But when you're going home, it's like you forget all about that thing that is like, well, I'm just happy to go back home. And that's how it would be, leaving here. So I'm just trying to assure your desires don't get caught up in the possible fear-mongering that can be created with this. It's a consciousness construct. I know I'm overdoing this probably. Apologies, but I have to say this because this needs to be clear. This construct, as well as any, is a consciousness construct. It's held together through intention. Okay? It is. And your intention is everything while being here. Know that you're not a prisoner. Know that you're not trapped. Okay? Like I said, I used the analogy within dream state, me teaching myself and reminding myself, should I say, I am bound. I'm bound. Something has me. Look again. No, you're not. What does that mean? You are the captain of the helm. You're creating that world. You determine whether or not you stay or leave. Nothing else does. Nothing has the authority over you to control you. They can manipulate you, so don't get caught up in the flesh. Don't get caught up in all this electric wars that's going on and all this other stuff. Know of it, and that's the whole point of it, is to be aware of it, but know that you transcend it and you hold the power within you not to be affected with it within you, who you truly are. The body can be, but don't be moved by those things. I'm looking to encourage so there's elevation, And it's not about being angry or anything like that, okay? I mean, you can be angry if you want, but eventually you get over that. No, though I didn't, I wasn't implying anything about her because I already said I liked her. I mean, I just like her, you know? She's full of piss and vinegar. I like her, I just don't agree with certain things because I've come through a lot of those things, such as the God of the Bible. I was a Christian for 27 years. I am no longer walking that path. I'm no longer under that hierarchy control. And it took a long time not to be under that. This is not the only lifetime in which I was under that regime, so to speak. And she's still part of that. And when I see that with certain people, that they're still part of that, I can feel it. And I can see how it connects in certain aspects because I'm very familiar with it. So I'm very extremely intimately familiar with it. So I just, when you're walking your path, you just basically, you have to keep it narrow for yourself. You respect other people's, what they're doing. And I look to find common ground with certain things and just, in some cases try to be all things to all people. When you're dealing with the public, it's kind of like that's the thing to do. But it doesn't mean that you need to invite things into your world, For myself personally, it's taken a long time and gone through a great deal of things in order to get to where I'm at in regard to personal sovereignty. It's been more than I can say. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything other than being aware then within the awareness and giving credit where credit's due to those who are working in the field here, boots on the ground. But don't deny yourself concerning who and what you truly are. It takes a long time in this world, in most cases, to realize that. Truly know that. So, as for me, of course, not everybody's the same. I've gone through a lot of stuff, implants. Raise your hand if you're familiar with implants. I had no name for any of these things when I was dealing with them personally. Shutting down your nervous system, especially when you're looking to get back onto your sovereign path. Oh my God. I mean, it's, I had nothing to rely on. Most of the stuff that I know, I learned through my own personal experiences, and it was like trudging uphill. So I'm just saying, it's important. What I'm trying to emphasize here is the importance of your own awareness and respecting others who come along and look to assist, but you have to have your own path. Sully, hey brother, good to have you here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into this. Hopefully I didn't overspeak, but and if I made myself clear about what I was saying, let me know, okay? Because that's important to me, what I'm doing here. I'm not interested in just being a talking head. I want to be able to share a little bit enough to create a mirror for individuals to be able to see themselves in a way that's intimate and their own thing. Anyhow, enough of me yabbering on about that. Let me see here. All right. Let's get started. Okay, also before I begin, I'm going to go ahead and periodically put within the chat the link for the summary of the terminology that is going to be used or has been used. So if anybody's interested in that, it's open, it's free to the public. I transcribed it and put it into a PDF form, and I will post the link. I've already done that, but I'll continue to do that so people will be aware of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Here we go.
Oh, this ought to be fun. Tell you what, instead of me saying it, let's be very clear about where this data is coming from and who's saying what, okay? COVID has a data center. COVID has COVE WBAN, wide body area networks that are injected with a payload. The graphene is not the only component to the payload. Now, a lot of people said that one was a sterile shot, one was hypermutagenic, and then one was, sterilized, mutagenic, hypermutagenic. In every case, whatever they inject into you, there are wireless ways to get into you and your tissue. You do not need an injection for this. It's been going on a long time.
I'm going to pause it right there. That's right. This has been going on a long time, but a lot longer than Sabrina would recognize. This has been going on for, well, I don't want to get all dramatic, but this has been going on for millions of years, in different aspects of outer worlds. The idea of electric wars and using viruses and different type of things like that in order to control. It's like the wild, wild west in manifest reality. These outer worlds are nutter butter, okay? So I like how she really gets dramatic about this stuff, though. It's fun.
But in 2005, we instituted biosensors and made it commercial to companies to access electrically, wirelessly, you and your body. Commercially, companies installing light switches. 2005. Now, fast forward the brain. Commercially, brain-to-brain interface. Haha, look at me, I have telepathy. Here's my wearables on the YouTube. 2014. Here's my cyber-physical backbone with the value chain partners at the DISN at the DoD, 2017. Here's Operation Warp Speed. Go get everybody injected, 2019. Now it's 2023. Do you even know what the COVID is yourself? Person who's asking me. Nobody agrees, do they? No. We still have pockets of doctors, even internationally, they can't make up their minds and they can't decide, and oh, I don't know. You buying that? I have a new Synergy Tech Metric PDF. I went over it twice. Once pissed off and once a lot more nice. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Are you saying COVID is electronic warfare creating sickness into your body by remote control? Well, that's easy. What I'm saying is COVID has its own body area network with a spiked protein whose creation as a spiked protein is to watch neurons in real time.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's a shipload of agendas, especially in these outer worlds, because, again, it's like the wild, wild west. What's behind this is not the New World Order. The New World Order is the structure for the agendas that have been taking place for a very long time. So those who are representing that you'll see within certain aspects of the medical field and different aspects of government, and some of it's pretty obvious, are seated positions in order to facilitate and assure the agenda moving forward. It gets a bit nefarious and it gets quite dramatic, and this is what's behind this. Really, it's the agendas, the unseen forces moving behind the scenes and using certain individuals and governments and structures within society as puppets for the puppet master. When I was in Christianity, the study for this was the study of eschatology. And so I started looking at the New World Order back in 1983. And this is really what's behind it. So what is the races that are behind this? Does it really matter? You know, I would say everybody's pretending to be something that they're not anyhow. So it's just, it's pretty wild. Again, you know, it's important to be aware, but not to take it so seriously. Meaning, it's like, why would you say that, Randy? Well, just because of what I said earlier, and I'm just looking to try to remind you, how much authority and power that you have in regard to as a soul that you are. Soul is a subdivision of the source energy. So spirit, you can see as being, although it can have form, and it does have form within the construct, but the essence of the energy, which we refer to as spirit, is who and what you are, which is a formless non-entity, all-knowing, all-powerful, that within subdivision of your energy becomes that what is called soul. And what is that? So we're talking about a source being, and I'm just saying, just because you're pressed into this small little vessel here, and it's very compromised vessel, these bodies here, I refer to them as being slave bodies, doesn't limit you. If you learn how to get out of the body, you see how powerful what you really are. You begin to start really see what that is, and should I say, remember and reacquaint yourself to who and what you really are. So no fear, okay? None. Fear is an artificial emotion. Just wanted to emphasize that again.
Remote EEG. And now you're going to tell me, I have no idea what you're talking about. And lucky for you that I made the new PDF, I get to say, well, they do. Over at DARPA, they're watching your body from the inside out with cognitive warfare technology. And then you say to me, well, how does the person sitting at their desk with the headset on find wherever I am? And I say back to you, we use Python and Pi and computer code And the reason that we do that, because remember, you're like, are you, Sabrina, saying that the COVID? Nope. I have a college textbook with emerging technology. I have notes from the Artificial Intelligence Symposium presented by the Joint Artificial Intelligence Commission in September of 2020. Me, Sabrina, I don't have any opinions here or in the tech metric booklet because they're not opinions. This is how we route computer data through human bodies. So way back in the 80s when they tried to kick this off and keep everybody on America Online, what I found when I worked at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and my big huge software box is MIA at the moment, I found massive IBM software underground tethered to a low Earth orbit satellite. Your Google search term for Internet of Things Wide Body Area Network COVID ban. Your search terms for some of the ingredients that were inside of those shots are listed here by a caller into the American Journal in December 2021, but the Google terms are why I kept it, because these things have been openly discussed in multiple articles in the last 2 years, because modified polynucleotides, for example, well, how would you do that? How would you log into a human body and mess with their polynucleotides? Do you even know what a poly or oligonucleotide is? I get confused myself, so if you say, heck no, don't feel bad, man. Okay, so here's how it works. COVID, long ago and far away. Oh, Fauci says we're going to do HIV and we're going to take away their immunity. And so when I worked at Whitewater, I found a low Earth orbit satellite with the big IBM underground, super blue like a Cray supercomputer. University of Wisconsin, Whitewater. Connected to UW-Madison, UW-Eau Claire, UW River Falls, UW Stout in Menominee, and every other university system underground, above ground. Got a lot going on up there in that state. Anyways, so when you understand that you have a body part that is responsible for 80% of your immune system and that it's electrical and wireless like your phone, what is your body part that is 80% of your immune system? How do we know? What organs comprise the human immune system? Per Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, organs and tissues important to the immune system. Thymus, bone marrow, which generates your photons in part, lymph nodes, vessels in your vasculature, the flow of your veins and arteries in your blood, spleen and your skin. Spleen and your skin. So there's your biofield and 80% of your immune system. Skin is the largest organ in the body, and your biofield is bioelectric and quantumly moves around in the lymphatic system. So it makes it perfect for an electronic or bioelectrically hackable morphogenetic regenerative field, especially given that it can utilize the topology of the skin to stretch out into tissue scaffold, new limbs, or whatever. Pardon my face. That's how it works in nature, too. Okay, so COVID is an electronic warfare. Well, they can log into you from wherever they are. That is mosaic warfare. Pentagon Artificial Intelligence Symposium, September 10th, 2020. The role of our project here with the Department of Defense with AI. The transcripts are here on the channel. Pardon my face. Everyone can and should implement AI in everything they do. We are done with governance and ethics. We are now AI pioneers and AI practitioners. We have an agile pod conduit United States Air Force smart sensor system with Project Maven, MQ-9 Reaper drones tethered to ground to enable autonomous sensing. Now you tell me how, because I'm going to show you. Why? Because that's a college textbook. And when you hear things like this out of your Department of Defense, that's an MQ-9 Reaper. That's a big electronic bird. And it's individually tethered to ground? Not possible. Oh, completely possible. Oh, absolutely, yes. Mosaic warfare, net-centric warfare. Well, that doesn't mean anything to you. Right, because step one is, are you tethered to the cloud? Yeah, what's your ass's IP address? Because that ain't how you're going to find it. Additionally, allegedly, according to the Sergeant Major thing on the BitChute today, which I'm waiting to see what this little gambit is. The black-pilled ham, oh, what's a wireless sensor network? Are you fucking kidding me? Boys with toys and purveyors, propagators of noise. So there you are. And there's all your biosensors on 802.15.4. 2 radio frequency sinks to pull in 802.15.5, which are those wireless sensor mesh networks all around you. And that's without using Omnet to log into you right there in your kill box inside your home with the help of your local internet service provider. Yeah. Why? Rather, how? How am I logging into your body? Well, that's 802.15.4, the biosensors. But Project Maven is Mosaic Warfare. That's Google. And that's letting us log into your 802.15.6, which is why we have network game theory routing and bioelectromagnetic algorithms running through humans. So if you're not on the COVID wide body area network, the COVE body area network, per the Artificial Intelligence Symposium with our MQ9s tethered to ground with Project Maven, which is Mosaic Warfare that the Google people walked out on. And why? Because they did not want to be, excuse me, I moved my sign up myself. They did not want to be involved with the ability, with net-centric warfare, to just reach in and pwn someone in their home, in their kill box, in the following ways. See this little grid right here? Since 2007, with that EEG headset, to do any of the following and enable these systems to hunt you by your biosensors, which, again, for cybersecurity purposes, before I list all these to you, this is Cybersecurity 2022 for the 6G Low PAN Personal Area Network. For a Striker ad hoc vehicular network, moving on the fly, machine-to-machine language only, no interruption by the commander on the ground. There's your drone, MQ9 potentially. Here's your Striker or Swarm, either way. Here's your body area network. What got me started with all of this with software-defined networking on the Cisco side is that this signal that is here, dictated by machine-to-machine language only, and only from the smart grid application, no human involved, is that if your body is open shortest path first, which is a mathematical metric of routing an electrical signal through a human body due to it being a node on a network. When we define the human body as a node on a network, everything changes, and it has in 2012 with legal.
That's because we all have a signature. It's like an IP, like an IP address. We have a signature that it can be specifically identified. That's what this makes. This is nothing new, again. And she had mentioned this is nothing new, but it goes back a lot longer than she would know, because she gets locked into the God of the Bible type of thing. So, and she thinks a lot of everything that exists is this universe unto itself. I'm using her own words, okay? And so this goes back, during the electric wars, this goes back millions of years, and the idea of identifying who and where you're at within a free, expressed, universal experience is through your personal signature or your IP. You can use that term IP. Okay. When you overlay the Keylontic template to this lingo, it matches. Well, kinda. The torus field. Okay, but the multidimensional aspect of it that is inactive. Most of what we have here, it's inactive, and so we're talking about the primal, the universal primal currents, the backflow. That can be done outside of the body, meaning you can reintegrate or go back to that if you wish. Again, you're a God sentient being. You can do whatever you want. It depends on you. But if you don't know who and what you are, you're going to be subject to the drama or indoctrination. So I'm very adamant about these things because I've come through a lot of this stuff. So on a personal level, it's important. Yeah, let me see here. You mind me stopping and reading because I don't have anybody else to do that, so I have to do it. So I'm pausing the video here. I just want to emphasize this. It's important to know that. Okay, so thinking out loud while I'm reading. Well, the Azare, there's three primary aspects of the multidimensional anatomy in regard to manifest reality. Because when we're talking about the anatomy, we're talking about manifest reality. That is not who and what you are. That's what you're experiencing yourself as differently. Even when you go back to the point of origin of entering into the manifest fields, okay, that is a entry point. That's not your origin of who and what you are. Who and what you are transcends all creations. So the Azare is centered here, right? Let's just discuss that for a second. And within the center of it is the Taran. The Taran is the source seed code. It's a personal aspect of the anatomy within the structure. And that connects to the monad. Those are the three primary things. And the Taran being the key to the multidimensional anatomy. And that's the course that I'm focusing on right now. Actually, it's multidimensional anatomy, and the conclusion is the activation of the Taran. We're talking about transcendence. The physicality in regard to the experience here is very limited in regard to what people perceive as who and what they are. The structure itself is not who and what you are. The structure is through which you experience yourself differently as. The structure of the conduit structure of the geometry of light form. It's really simplified within the idea of intention is found within the vibration. The vibration produces the form. So what is the form? Form is light. Simplicity, form is light. In every aspect of it. Is it mathematical? Yes, because it's a structure. It's a very defined structure. But you can create all things and move all things within it if you understand that you are a God sentient being. You come here and forget, So it's my objective to remind people of this constantly. Anyhow, so let's get back to this. I just wanted to try to answer. I don't think I probably did, but I did put in my 2 cents on it, which is important for me. It's important that we transcend within our perception of things. Within the manifest experience, it's dramatic, and one can easily get caught up in the drama. Easily get caught up, especially these outer worlds. And all I'm saying is take a step back and realize that, it's this thing. And it's is it? And then it's not the thing. I'm being elusive, but this has to do with what I mentioned earlier. Anyhow, back.
Autonomous Weapons Statement, Department of Defense Directive 3000.09. Your body is a node on the network. In the event that you are open shortest path first or link state vector routing on a ManNet cognitive radio network, you happen to be available to an intermediate state, whether to hold data or become capacitive to other formats of data within your personal area network, not even just your band or your 2 or 4 part connection. That signal hits you no matter what. No commander to interrupt. Now that's pretty serious for cybersecurity on a 6th generation wireless platform. So as a mother of an 18 and a 19-year-old, I wanted to understand better what this was all about with metrics. So is COVID electronic warfare creating sickness into your body by remote control? It absolutely can, due to the excessive radiation or hitting your biomarkers, which is the new page 1 feature on our new technical PDF. for that reason. We knew that with the biomarkers being hit that often, the sensors inside of you, that's what I was looking for, was the other sign. We knew that by hitting those biomarkers all the time, and I showed the synergists more than once, the Department of Defense HDIAC video, at which 38 minutes in where they discuss biosensors, they also discuss taxing the body electrically due to all the handshaking, electrical handshakes, like you used to hear on the dial-up modem coming and going from the body. Once they realized that, they had to ease up on how many networks were talking back and forth and harnessing everything back and forth so that they could keep the path loss, the noise, and everything else down. Now, this is not when they got started with this. K-hop nearest neighbor routing protocol in 2007 and thermodynamic routing protocols in 2013 for swelling you and deswelling you in order to handle more data, more throughput through your blood and bone and tissue. Period. So tell me what part of that contributes to your health and wellness. You don't even get a discount on your internet. Now, what I was just referring to with those wireless sensor networks, those are the relays that the black-pilled Hammond people allegedly don't know about, etc. I'm not buying that. You guys have to know better by now. Why? Those are the same ones on the inside, the 802.15.4. Effect of coronavirus worldwide through misusing of wireless sensor networks. That's your 802.15.5. I don't think you understand. All these signals are all around you all the time. But when they start pinging you as a biomarker, whether to monitor your health or monitor how you're driving your car or the Amazon shipping services, which were given permission to Mesh Network 802.15.5 do it in 2021, just for faster throughput on their databases for shipping, then you have to get real about the fact that all those little signals, see all these little blue dots? They're all communicating with 5 other blue dots all at the same time using your red blood cells. They're not using your router to bootstrap for everything. Not at all. That's in the end of my tech metrics as well. So, Craig Silver, what I use, you can tell by the age of my signs, this is one of the first ones I did because as I continued to research all the cybersecurity, I realized, holy shit, if you guys have been messing with this the way you have, fibromyalgia, I watched it. I grew up through it. And I'm like, I always wondered because all of a sudden, in the late 90s, everybody I knew was taking Advil, and I just graduated high school, and it was weird. You weren't supposed to go to drugs unless you had to, but everybody was. And I'm like, huh. Then they diagnosed me with pseudotumor cerebri, and I found out after the fact transcranial magnetic stimulation, because pseudotumor cerebri is fake brain tumor. Oh, your body's swelling and deswelling, but we don't know why. Your body's acting like it has a brain tumor, but there's no physical mass. But transcranial magnetic stimulation will still kick your ass the same way. Anyways, pseudo seizures, that was from a person who was helping in the cheer gym, and when he moved the big mats they use, like wrestlers use in a cheer gym to bounce and whatnot, he had a seizure. His eyes were all bloodshot. They took him to the hospital, a couple of the big guys who were helping the coaches, because those are heavy mats. And they stood there, these big dudes, with this nice guy, and the doctors looked at him and said, no, you had a pseudo seizure because we don't know why you're having seizures, so it's fake. Here's some medication, see you later. These dudes, these people, they're like, what in the hell kind of response is that? Well, that's the response they gave all the autoimmune people since my grandfather died of very rapid onset Lou Gehrig's disease. Now, you ask any targeted individual and anybody who knows about how these beam forming give you cancer and take it away in 15 minutes on the Daily Mail 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago. That's your new designer drugs, wireless drugging. Book 2 of the college textbook, no shit. Designer AI precision medication. They have it. They've been doing it. Testing on our seniors in 2014. And nano diseases, Morgellons was around in the 1600s. Now you can argue back and forth about the autism rates with the vaccination rates with kids. That's an argument they want to still have. But you cannot argue this. This is a linear chart of how it was always your fault, no matter what you did. And now, oh, you're suddenly dead. But you went into the doctor and did what they said. Yep, and now you're suddenly dead and it's your fault. Meanwhile, this is an engineered system for how many years now? You can electrically take people out. Nobody's going to know, and they're not going to tell. And the wireless routes that they're taking with EMS are also routed external to the local police. And there's 4 levels of law enforcement, bare minimum. You'll hit a different phone. You'll never see your home. They can do whatever they want. Worse than the mafia. Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. And that's another reason why you're not going to get a judge or anybody to deviate from the system. They'll kill him from the inside out. This isn't a joke. Last year at Halloween, people were turning in a circle based on that vagal nerve and this internal oscillation. This is electricity. Frequency oscillates. And those are biosensors right here. And this is why I was so agitated with Miss Kingston for not being very clear about this industry right here. Biosensor hunting for money. And the cyber-physical backbone makes it way easier. Now to that list of how. I get a hold of NASA. I want National Institute of Science and Technology Geospatial, a CubeSat that is commercial, or nanoavionics.com with specialized software. How's that frozen? Who's doing all this? Your medical, your sheriff, your police, your lawfare for information, surveillance, and reconnaissance. How are they doing it? Net-centric warfare, network warfare. Your body is a node on the network since 2005, courtesy of those biosensors. 2007, we have cognitive threat technology warfare, which lets them slap on that EEG headset. Link is on the channel for the product and also Sensors Open System Architecture. Strap-on headset. Okay. Now, this right here represents all the different ways that I can access your 802.15.6. So I'm going to turn this like this and read to you while I hold this in place. The biosensors themselves are 802.15.4. Your whole body area network is 802.15.6. Your internet service provider, a satellite, a UAV, ManNet variants with OSIMOSA, your Wi-Fi, LiDAR, Synchron, brain-to-brain interface, nano peer-to-peer, MAC IDs at the physical layer, MAC IDs with bioelectromagnetic algorithms, your personal area network, on a RAN 3PP LTE, front haul, back haul, 6 or 5 or 4G, IEEE of biophotonics with DNA databases with software like Bioconductor, wireless sensor networks that can or cannot be ad hoc, and brain-to-brain inside the home. Just getting started. Are these devices communicating? They sure are. Are these devices networked together? They sure are. Are you always on the network due to industrial Internet of Things, biosensors, DNA, analyte derivatives, soft tissue, robotics, visited upon every human in the form of 802.15.4 since 2005? Some more? Yes. Do the 802.15.5 wireless sensor mesh networks have permission to do things like expedite Amazon shipping services since 2021 through your blood and tissue at the expense of your red blood cells and whatever expression of nutrients and proteins they can biochemically wield in order to bring your tissue into electrical cohesion with their bioelectric code and updates to it for their database routing by the following protocols on the wide body area network. Clustered, cross-layered, postural, cue, quality of service. Aware or temperature. Simple, I'm simple, feel, reek, beck, airs, biocom, cicada, TICOS, wasp, ETPA, PSR, opportunistic, DVRPL, OBSFR, PRPLC, QoS aware, DMTM, QPRD, EPR, LAIBA, Co-LAIBA, M-LAIBA, DARE. Temperature M2, E2, reattempt, M attempt, attempt, alter, ALTR, LTRT, LTR, and Terra. WBAN routing schemes. Temperature aware, cluster-based, QoS, energy aware, cross-layered, postural movement-based. And that is how we change out the frequency, whether you are sitting and standing and moving through your kill box, which is your turn-based control system, where you're moving, when you're sleeping there, and who you're with, cubed off into the proper metrics, no different than 1A, 2B, etc., like you'd be LARPing at your table.
I just wanted to stop and respond to Mel's question in regard to what's being discussed here. If you, she refers to the idea of kill box. Now, if you're just being passive and you're going through this life as an automaton, and yeah, sure, you're going to be affected and manipulated on all levels. But this is not that channel, is it? I've been here for 15 years, and prior to that, I was 15 years in ministry. And long story short, no, you're a God sentient being. The focus here is your multidimensional function within its entirety of who and what you are within these outer worlds to reintegrate, regain the awareness of who and what you really are. So you're much more powerful than one will know. And the idea is to engage with what you really are, and you're not the body. The body is an interface and a facilitator within this realm. So my emphasis here would be, if you're not going along with the program and you're reintegrating back to that which you are, uh, uh, facilitating by pulling more of your energy back into your awareness at this stage. You're not subject to this. You're aware of it. That's the whole point of doing this, is just to be aware and perhaps maybe communicate it when it needs to be communicated. But it's just, and for me, when I present something like this, it's about encouragement to getting on, start acting on the things that you agreed to do prior to coming here, and being reminded of that, which is going to cause reintegration of your energy, which is going to allow you to transcend and be able to overwrite any of these things. Um, it's really interesting. For the longest time, I always seen within my mind's eye because I've experienced the power, a demonstration of the power of what we are, and that's been through healing and different things like that. And I'm talking about the real thing, transformation, healing cancer. I mean, the real stuff where power's working through you, and it's you. And just by the wave of a hand or just an intention through a look, you're able to transmit that energy. One of the main reasons for me looking to put together the workshops that I was doing was for training, so that we on an individual level can work within our initial communities that we're involved in, whether it's simply just within your own home and your home world that you're in, whether it's your family or it's just you and perhaps maybe another individual, is to where it can grow and become uh, a extension of that energy through an agreement, and being able to affect your sphere of influence, and just where you live, the energy can flow out. And as an example to that, I guess, would be if my objective. Okay, let me put this in context. To when doing the workshops was, again, training on an individual level, so that when we come together, and the idea was to meet together, okay, and like within a year or so, be able to meet up at the same place and be able to rent out a space where we can do ceremony, and we can magnify that power. And what it ends up doing is it flows outside of the building, and someone's walking along outside the building, and next thing you know, they fall over because the power is so strong, and next thing they're aware of who and what they really are, transcending this state. And it's, for me, it's all about demonstration of power of who and what we really are, and to come together collectively, and then where that becomes magnified for the benefit of all life. It's not about picking fights. you know, Bad man, bad woman, bad man, good man, whatever. It's not, because everybody that is in manifest reality, regardless of how long they may have been within manifest reality and continue to be, that seems to be nefarious, and perhaps is. On the other side, They're the antithesis of this. And this is actually a subject matter that I would like to get into. Perhaps this Saturday, I think in context, I will bring this up and tell a few stories in regard to this. But this is what's important. The demonstration of power that we walk in and display, this is what's going to make the difference here. This is what's going to create the transformation here. You know, understanding these things that's going on, which again, it's nothing new, is important. It's a reminder so that we can get on track and start exercising our convictions in areas that actually matter, because there's a tendency, especially with the online experience, is that people listen to stories. It all becomes a story. It's like entertaining, you know? And there's really nothing that happens. It also kind of reminds me of like when I was in Christianity, and you would have certain congregations where you have members within the church and they just sit there for like 20, 25, 30 years and they don't really do anything. They just kind of show up and sit there in a pew. That doesn't work. And there's a whole lot of that here within the online thing, because people run to and fro, going to different things and looking at different stuff. And, that's okay, but it doesn't really go anywhere. There has to be an accountability. It's important to show up. It's important to become a participant within it, within your own gravity of your own shoes, so to speak, your own working through your own sovereignty, and your authenticity. Which is that's quite the ordeal, and those things can facilitate that, going to and fro and looking at all this different stuff. It can be reminders, but mostly what I see and what I experience, because I've been involved with this stuff for about 15 years online now, is most of the individuals, no offense to anybody, but it's become like a programming where it's like it's an entertaining thing, and they're very reserved, or they get locked into a little group. If we're able to work with one another, regardless of how much position one may have. Like, there's a lot of people out there that have a well-known name within the spiritual communities. When I was in Christianity, the idea was to reach out to that which was working, and those who are in need, and help them and lift them up. If you're in a position to do that, well, that's the whole idea. I would have been doing more of that, but when I first started this channel, I tried to do that, but people just wouldn't. Either they ignored me. You never know who you're talking to, but they ignore you. At least that's been my experience. And in some cases, just kind of disrespect you. I experienced that. And so it was like pulling teeth to try to get people to work with one another. It's, and I'm still trying to do that. But if I had the ability and the resources, I would spend probably a third of my time in regard to all this stuff, finding people, the little guy and the little girl, so to speak, or the little gal and the little person. If I'm kind of grappling for words here, but you understand what I'm saying. Somebody who has a channel that's like 100 subscribers, and they've been doing it for a long time, and they spend a lot of time prior to what they're doing, and they're just doing their best that they can, but they need a leg up so they can be more effective with what they're doing. And I think if we lifted one another up that way and put aside the ego and the pride and wanting to surround ourselves with ourselves type of thing, it would allow for things to happen a lot faster and more expediently. So, all right, so back to this here. All right, hopefully you got something from that.
Talk with your D&D game. Omnet and Qualcomm, for starters. I showed the software. It's on the Rumble Dance channel all the time. We're not done. A novel cluster head selection technique for edge computing-based Internet of Medical Things, because this is your mesh networking, which, again, when we're cross-communicating with those mesh wireless sensor networks, obviously you can imagine that anytime we communicate like that is where the holes are for everything to poke and prod. So there's a lot of investment here, which is why I went here to the biosensors that are in vivo, not your wearables and on the body, although I'm looking at that too for interrupt for how they do what they do with these things. But it's still going to be, in my opinion, the first place to look for those of you that are truly hacking is right there. That's as close as I'm going to get to any violation of anything. And that's commonly known. So anyways, to people who would know even what I mean by that. So I think I'm safe. The point is that these protocols inside those wireless sensor mesh networks all match up back and forth to that mosaic warfare approach of any which direction, any which way dead, that I want to get you, compress you, move you, put something in or out of your head. I have it. That's the point. And this is since 2008 and 2014 at the international community level. Now please look again at all the things I just read to you. Who has access to this type of power? This is where everyone's getting confused. Well, it's only the military. No. Well, it's only black projects. No. Well, it's only local law enforcement. Yes, at a hierarchical standard security handed out, doled out, appropriated, materials command overseen, hardware and software level, secure. It's called information surveillance and reconnaissance, not happy clown time or hee-haw. So with your security, yes, you have people even locally, absolutely, that are using the same systems, whether only by database, tunneled, or there's a word for this because I've been thinking of saying it wrong. Bottlenecked. Up here at the top and down here at the bottom with your local level. No, they handed out a bunch of stuff, commercial off the shelf, and they made it really easy to play with people. Nano peer-to-peer, HBC, human body communication, quasi-static for a bunch of this destabilization. But these biofrequency weapons are then much easier to calibrate and mess with as well, which is why they are absolutely wide open out in front if you're looking at it properly, which is, again, are you saying that COVID is electronic warfare creating sickness into your body by remote control? Well, the electronic integrated disease surveillance system here backfeeds with bioconductor, which is software, into all these biomedical databases that all report with assays and faces in real time with cognitive warfare technology with EEGs available for their heads. So then I would say that COVID being deployed as part of the cyber physical backbone, given that it is a graphene application, and we know from our other illustration right here at the back of the Synergy Tech Metrics PDF that we have graphene-based sensors in health monitoring for a very long time. And that is facilitated by all of the networks that you can read right here on the personal area network, the wireless local area network, the wireless neighborhood area network, and the wireless wide area network, and your band and your PAN and your channel bonding, your channel aggregation, your channel assembling, I'm thinking the assimilation. Fine. Channel width agitation, no, adaptation, and primary channel selection. Low latency, energy efficient, and high throughput. The human body, the best antenna ever. So what do you call it then? It has its own data network. It rebuilds itself and comes back. It accesses synthetic biology. It overrides the commander for a direct nervous system, central nervous system, and enable the commander directly. Hang on, I'll read it to you. Jats.
All right, so that was almost over with. I want to talk a little bit about my time with, just for a moment, because this is in context to what she said there, and I see people dropping off and coming back on. You got to understand, just for myself, I'm old, and I've been through a lot, and most of it I went through on my own. And now implants, and we're talking about biological implants, and then we're talking about implants within the holographic field. People are starting to become aware of this. I was going through it before there was the internet, okay? The long story short is that it was shutting down my nervous system, okay? I know this stuff up close and personal. But That being said, this is the reason why I'm bringing it up. You can override it through your will. If you know that you're not this, and I get really kind of pissy over this because there's so much emphasis about this. When you drop this, now, I'm not saying the idea of not respecting things. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying, but when you drop this, you know it's not you. But there's so much emphasis on this, and there's so much programming and conditioning here. I'll be saying the same things until I'm not here, because most of the things that I do say that are most important, I know them to be. People are not listening to it except for a few. Again, to emphasize, no offense, but there's a tendency to want to be entertained. And there's a place for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it seems to be commonplace for the most of the people within this world. It's a programming, conditioning, being addicted to dopamine, serotonin, likes on the phone, all this other stuff. It just becomes, it's a substitution in a lot of cases for the real thing. You see people, you probably, I'm sure, experience this, some of you, on a daily basis, where you may be at a grocery store, going down the street, in workplace, whatever, and people are walking down the street and they're not paying attention to anything around them except for what's in front of them so that they can walk. They're connected to this device. I would encourage to disconnect yourself from the device. Use it as a tool, but a tool only. For those who may be within my age, when you were growing up, you spent a lot of time outside, and you spent a lot of time entertaining yourself with your own imagination, which is, especially outdoors, that's quite healthy. I'm just saying there's a conditioning obviously here, and Sabrina is pointing out the technicalities in regard to what's happening and the agenda and objective. It's important to spend time with yourself outside of these things. Some of you may live where there's a place where you can go to the woods or whatever. Maybe even your backyard is a nice place to go to, or someplace local that you can go to and find some solitude for meditation, and take off your shoes. As it gets warmer, take off your shoes and just ground yourself, and kind of reset yourself, then spend time meditating, realizing what's most important to you. Think about the things that you perhaps maybe you were excited about within the early stage of your incarnation, because those things never really leave. They just get covered up, and it's that joy that you may find within those early desires when you were younger, perhaps, that can be used as a catalyst to propel you within your further in-depth connection to your inner self. Through love and joy is through which we expand. And that's really what I'm trying to emphasize here, I suppose. And to be able to connect to that on an authentic love, with an authentic way, is extremely beneficial for us. To be able to simply to be able to remind ourselves of what our initial intention had been. And a lot of that is understood within the early part of the incarnation. Maybe not necessarily as a plan, but you could feel it. Well, you gals, um, if this was like a platform like Zoom or something, then we could like have a meditative collective thing that we're all kind of connected by seeing each other. And but if you want, gosh, only thing that I know to do here is be it that we are truly one of the aspects of what we truly are that transcends the creation that we initially really want to be able to bring into our experience and create the influence through is that the transcendence of love, the love being that we are, right? So only thing I know to do is what I've prepared to do, and I got videos and stuff like that here. Eventually, I'd like to be able to do some live stuff where I'm playing and singing, and hopefully that would be beneficial as well. But I'm going to go ahead, if you don't mind, and see if I can find something. Um, I need to make some more versions of this. I have several different versions of this. So I want to play this, then I want to come back and I'm going to say a few things if I could. And just remind you, for those who are interested in far as the terminology that Sabrina is using, and I put together a PDF and made it available to the public, and I've been posting the link here within the chat several times so that people could see it. You can go ahead and download it. It doesn't hurt to have it, okay? It's a resource. So things may come up where you may want to be able to use it. So that's the reason why I put it together and make it available for those who would wish, for whatever reasons, for further um, study or perhaps, research it a bit or just to have it, like I said, handy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this and come back and know that we are. We are the love we've always been. 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 Yes, we All right, so I just would like to also mention I want to play a few other things just to kind of lift the frequency a bit here, okay? But I wanted to mention this, and this is what I'm going to focus on this for Saturday, hopefully, and that is the conclusion for the course Our Multidimensional Anatomy, which is available on Patreon. All the materials and everything is there, and so I'm focusing on and looking to put this together. The conclusion that is the activation of the Taran, which is a ceremony for this, and I'm just kind of waiting on it, and it's there's been a whole lot of things going on, so I'm waiting on this so that it's when I'm able to do it, it's going to be done right. At least it's going to feel right for me, okay, which is going to translate over to you in the same way. Um, so, for those who haven't, um, you know, become part of Patreon, I would recommend you doing that. Now, there's a very small amount of people that are paid members there, and the majority of the people who have come in is like about three quarters of that. So because of those who are paid members and have been assisting me, um, a lot of this stuff goes to them first, and I haven't made it available to the public, the other materials, because I'm not finished with it, and I'm going to be looking to extend it here within the live stream. Okay. Um, and I really hadn't felt comfortable to do that at this point because I'm kind of just getting my footing with all this stuff here. But I like to continue to do it, but have the bulk of what is going to be used or accessible found in Patreon. Okay, so if you can afford to, be a paid member, I certainly can use it. I mean, because this is the only income that I've been getting outside of donations, which is very small and limited, and I just been barely surviving, and that's the truth. I have a long story in regard to health conditions and losing all my savings, and it just back in 2020 is where everything turned into a really huge mess. All right, just saying, it's not like I can't use it, and I haven't been tried to get assistance through the local government here in California, which is anybody who lives in California knows that this has been a crazy world here, and so that just didn't pan out. But yeah, let's see here. What else was I going to do? Oh yeah, if you can share, like, if you haven't subscribed, you know, consider it. I've been here for 15 years, so it'd be nice to be able to break 10,000 subscribers after 15 years. That would be nice. It helps also to get on the radar if you share, like, comment. It just fits into the algorithm on YouTube, and so it's just the way it works. So if you can share, like, or dislike, doesn't really matter. It kind of responds the same way, but I prefer if you did like it. If you don't like it, then well, that's up. It's none of my business really. I'm just doing what I can. So subscribe if you can. Awaken to what you have chosen. That's an important thing. That's what I've been kind of focusing on a bit as I kept interjecting within over what Sabrina was talking about. It's important not to lose track and get too caught up within the drama. And, just to emphasize the idea of my experience with ridding myself of implants. My nervous system was shutting down. You have to get my experience was okay. I'll just make it brief. It went from like 2 months at a time where I had to step away completely from what I was doing because my nervous system was shutting down, literally, because of this. So endeavoring and staying the course and persevering is sometimes what some certain individuals have to do, and I am one of them. I've been an incarnate here for longer than I wish to say, and there's been a whole lot of stuff going on, and I carry a lot of things, and so my experience is going to be different from others. But as me being an example, I would say, know that you can overcome regardless of what it is. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but once you get to a certain stage, you become more and more aware of who and what you really are. There's a disconnect to the drama, to the phenomenon. You start seeing from within, and rather just observing and then engaging where it's actually most beneficial. And that's been a process. It's not something you do overnight. But I'm just saying. All right. I really like this picture. It's like one of my favorite pictures that I made. It's you can see that's Merkabah's, right? And blowing it. And when we look at the ether, the source consciousness field, right? And you look at the Aquilon grid, okay, which makes up what we see in regard to Merkaba within different aspect of particle spin density, The geometry changes, it accommodates according to the density. Um, but within the core of it is what I come to understand personally. This is not taught through Keylontic science, this is just my awareness. There's a command center, which is a consciousness, because everything is conscious. And the ether responds to your command. That's the reason why I'll give an example, and I've shared this before. If you go out of the body, okay, whether it's an NDE experience or you're able to get out of the body and it's a new thing for you, and you, well, let's look at the example of the NDE. If you're unaware, you get out of the body and you go, okay, isn't there supposed to be some kind of tunnel? And within you, there's a default to what that you recognize that as being. Okay, that's your interpretation and understanding of what that is. And you could find yourself in a tunnel in the earth somewhere, a dirty, smelly hole, but it's a tunnel. Okay, you weren't being specific. It just defaulted to that. Isn't there supposed to be a tunnel? You didn't say within you, isn't there supposed to be a tunnel of light, which I wouldn't recommend going into. Okay, but the point is that the ether, the the Partakai grid, is responding to your command because your word and your thought is a command. All of it. All the time, it's a command. Okay? So I like this picture because it reminds me of this. So the heloic breath current, which is the primal uh, force currents, okay? But you're in the command of those because that's really what the structure's for. That's what the idea of free will within the structure is to be able to go extreme left or extreme right. But in simplicity, it's about creating and it facilitates your will. So this is the reason why I mention that your intention is everything. Be clear about your intention. Transmutation will occur faster than anything when your intention is at 100%. Once it reaches 100%, it happens. But when you're out of the body, it happens automatically because there's not a restriction. This vessel here, quite the restriction. So we transcend this, to go back to Sabrina Wallace and what she has been providing. Understand that you transcend all of that. You are not that. You are not the body. You're an occupant of it. Once you're able to get out of it, game over. Seriously. None of this stuff matters. Once you know how to get out of it, and you spend time reintegrating. It doesn't take long. You don't need to go to any being for that. Could you show me this? No. Within yourself. You manifest it. I want to know this. Boom. Being able to facilitate holding it within this vessel takes transmutation to bring back that energy. How many times have you had the experience where you went out in dream state and perhaps you went further out in dream state? Because dream state is different from the idea of traversing and going back to, different aspects of who and what you are within the construct. Okay? Those things you usually can't, most people will not bring it back. Okay? They may have a feeling about it, but they won't bring it back because the frequency is too high for here. This place is extremely dense. So you have to make room in the wine sack, so to speak, in order to hold that. So when you do return, so it's a process. I actually would like to be able to do this more for myself, but I've been preoccupied with survival, unfortunately. But on my Patreon, years ago I put together a guide for getting out of the body and an audible MP3 assisting type of thing where it teaches the body to go into stasis while your consciousness stays awake. So I have some materials there, and they're quite good. It's a good you know course to follow. There's a process of removing fear and all this other stuff, because what I noticed with certain communities, and chelantic science was one of them, and I had spoke to Christopher Comstock about this, and there was a hesitancy to getting out of the body. And I go, why is that? It's because, there's a lot of stuff and things. It's like, well, that's fear-based. Okay, no offense, but that is. So part of what I do within the PDF is give you exercises to condition yourself throughout the day to prepare you, because getting out of the body is really, for me, it's fundamentally the only reason for it is to be able to retrieve information for myself and to reintegrate more of my energy so that I can facilitate things here while being here. And so, programming and conditioning yourself throughout the day and preparing yourself so when you do finally get out of the vessel, you have a very clear game plan for what you're doing. Again, your intention is most important thing. So you're preparing and preparing and preparing. So when you finally do it, you can do, you set out to do the very thing that you do, because your intention, and go back to that, you're not going to waver. You're not going to go, oh, it's like, look at all this stuff or whatever. No, it's very clear about what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's like, for me, I've been planning a place that I created, which is a soul subdivision for myself, which is called Emerald Shore. I wrote a song about it 25 years ago. Okay. And that's a place for me. When I go there, I'm going there. That's a place of solitude for me. It's my, creation for solitude, place of rest, recalibrating, so to speak. And those other beings that are around me are not they're not other beings. They're me. And this was brought back to my attention, because initially the idea was to have an invite for those to come in, but it's my soul subdivision, because it's my creation. The point with what I'm saying here is that there has to be a clarity, right, in what you're going to do or what you're doing, and doing it as if it is already been done. So this is a process. So, to reemphasize, within Patreon, I have that if anybody's interested in that. So I call myself to myself. Yeah. I like that. I've said it that way a few times as well. That's I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Inner self. Yeah, because we're not going outside of ourselves for anything, right? And again, to emphasize, it's a consciousness construct. So what does that mean? It's all inward, that it becomes the manifest outward. When you look at, like, chelantic science, the model for chelantic science, you're seeing the code is within the vibration, right? And then from that vibration, that code that's in the vibration, which is the first creation thought intention, okay? That vibration holds within it the form, and the form is, a projection from the vibration. We see that within seismatics, right? We can take a matter, right? Whether it be a solid, quote unquote, nothing solid, but you know what I mean. Whatever type of matter it may be, and you utilize a certain vibration for that frequency, and then you can see the form, shape of that. That's the underlining or subatomic aspect of the shape that we can see that forms into. It's all frequency related, because in reality, this is part of the hologram. You become part of the hologram in order to experience. That's what makes the experience real, is because you interface with the hologram. Yeah, so long story short, we can see that it's all within the thought or contemplation. Actually, the word thought is not the best word to use, but it's a word that has meaning here for us within this reality field. So it's all about the inner thought. right? It's not about the external thing. We can experience things externally, obviously, right? We can hear, I've heard things outside of myself. Okay, error. I just got an error here. I don't know. Can anybody tell me whether or not you still hear me? I'm getting an error on my page. So, in other words, something came up here. Everything seems okay on my end, but I'm just want to make sure. So, could anybody please just let me know that you still hear me? Everything is not changed.